8,000 meters of the race have gone by. And let me add this. Looking at the splits that they've achieved in the women's race, it's going to get more and more interesting. They are running faster and faster almost each 1,500 meters. So the strangulation by the very best runners is underway.
Well, if we're looking forward to a lot of featured athletes in this women's race, it has been a one-man show on the men's side. And Marcel Hug, as you look at those splits through the various 5K splits from Hopkinton and now into Boston, Marcel Hug going after that course record, which he shares with Ernst van Dyke in the time of 1:18:04. You can get $50,000, Larry, if you can break that course record. And, you know, dating back to a couple of years ago, we talk about that right turn onto Hereford and the left onto Boylston. He actually missed the turn onto Hereford that cost him the course record a few years ago.
Exactly. He was it 14 seconds? I'm doing that off the top of my head, and a policeman came over to him and yelled at him, "Stop, you're off the course." And he had, by the time he stopped, turned around, backed up, got back on the course, missed by just several seconds of collecting an extra $50,000 because of that wrong turn. I talked to him afterwards. He was pretty cool about the whole thing. So this is a makeup here. I want to show you what I can do.
So while we wait for him to start to make his way towards Boylston Street, crossing over 1 hour and 15 minutes, but just referencing there before, back to 2017, or excuse me, 2021. Here is the mistake that cost him that $50,000 payday. The camera goes the right direction, Marcel does not.
That's right. He got back on the course and then took off again. And here he comes around down the home stretch. There's 600 meters to go there. We are back live here. And coming up, he will no doubt never forget that turn. And he's angling right now to turn and make the correct move onto Hereford Street. He has a short sprint up Hereford Street, and then you can see the finish line. His nickname, the Silver Bullet, comes from the train and he got it over in Tokyo, where they have Silver Bullet trains that go on a network. That's the name of that, and they nicknamed him that because he's so fast and has been so successful in the Tokyo marathon that he competes in. One of the 6 world marathon majors is Tokyo. So he's all alone. Look at him hit that wheel. He will be able to run the London Marathon within a week because the chairs absorb a lot of the pounding on the roads. He's got a wide ring that he's got there that he can strike. They recover much faster than able-bodied athletes. So this guy can compete next week at this same level, which is amazing.
And the crowd getting into it as they get to welcome their first hero of 2023 home. And in doing so, as he'll cross Exeter here in a moment and be into that final block in front of the Boston Public Library, he's going to get under that course record. So this will be a big payday for the 2023 champion. Marcel Hug takes the victory as he celebrates the win in Boston.
I think that he's not a guy to show much emotion. He's very calm, but I think it was something that had been pent up since 2021, and he's got the $50,000 here. 1 hour, 17 minutes, new course record. So he gets that. Outstanding.
And Jack Fleming, the CEO of the BAA, first to congratulate him here on officially 1:17:06. So he takes almost a minute off the previous course record, and $25,000 as well for his win. And at the last report, he had about almost 9 minutes advantage.
Amazing. That's
on
amazing.
The rest of the field.
Romachuk would be a little closer.
And you can see what he's been able now to accomplish, setting that new course record, and easily did so. We talked about that chair that he introduced to the sport in 2021. At the end of that year, he broke the existing world record in the marathon in this division in the wheelchair that had stood for 22 years by more than 2 minutes. So we will talk and maybe we'll continue to talk as the runners work their way of what the technology has been related to shoes for the runners. In the same way, this chair has been a game changer for the wheelchair race.
It has. A lot of it's made of carbon fiber. It's very light, very resilient. And as I say, his chair is, by the way, form-fitted to his body. The elite athletes at this level. Daniel Romachuk told me that he actually has decided to postpone his education. He trains out there at the University of Illinois, has for years anyway. And he's decided to just see what he can do professionally here, and he's focused on that. And they all have the most up-to-date equipment you can imagine. Women's pace definitely has picked up. I can see it in their stride. They are, it's getting more and more real every 1,500 meters of this race. It's quicker. They have dropped very few women thus far. The men's group staying about the same, 44 minutes into the race.
And Larry, they just came through that 15K in 43:56, 15:03 for that last 5 kilometers, slowest 5K of the race. Augustine Choge, we mentioned, who is a teammate of Eliud Kipchoge, was in that lead pack, but he's fallen off the back, and they're starting to dwindle just a little bit. But as we look at the men's and women's race here, time to check in with another member of our team, Allie Feller, who has the winner and the new course record holder in the men's wheelchair race. Allie?
Marcel, your 6th title here in Boston, a course record. How are you feeling right now?
I don't know. It's incredible. I feel exhausted right now, but so happy with this race. It was difficult in these conditions. Especially with the rain, but I'm happy that I was prepared for rain, so yeah, everything went perfect.
Sure did. You took it out hard right from the gun. Was that the race plan?
Yeah, it was. Just trying to go as fast as possible and see what's possible today in these conditions.
At one point, you had a 7-minute lead on the rest of the field. All right, you made a face like you didn't know that. What's it like hearing a 7-minute lead?
It's incredible. I was just pushing for myself against the clock. Didn't care what's going behind. But yeah, 7 minutes, it's a lot.
Pretty successful weekend for you here in Boston. You won the BAA 5K on Saturday. We see you taking the win today. Do you have enough extra room in your luggage for all the hardware you're about to bring back home?
Of course, for stuff like this, I always make some extra space. It's no problem. And yeah, it was a great weekend, and just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to Boston. It's always a pleasure to be here.
We love having you here. Congratulations, Marcel Hug. Thank you so much.
So we listened from Marcel Hug, and when we turn our attention now to this women's wheelchair race, and Susanna Scaroni still with the lead here. She doesn't have as big as an advantage as Marcel Hug just learned he had in the men's race, but Manuela Schar is about 3 minutes behind her as Scaroni fighting up that hill, but also in the process passing some of the elite men wheelchair racers who are still out on the
Yes, that just tells you how good Scaroni is. And in her early days, she was not up here in first or second in the Boston Marathon. And to her credit, all the improvement and the body work and the power you build up in the upper part of the body has made such a difference here in Boston and in other races she's competed in. Cresting the top of the hill is she right now, and I believe that is Heartbreak Hill that she is just cresting here as she approaches Boston College. And notice the speed pickup as they get in the flats.
We'll keep an eye on Scaroni as we go back to the elite men here, and the world record holder, Eliud Kipchoge, almost gets clipped from behind by C.J. Albertson and kind of points to the back of his leg and says, "Stay out of my way."
And that he's absolutely in the right to do that. There's no reason to clip somebody's foot. I would be annoyed myself with that. I mean, come on. Look at the whole road here. You've got no headwind. Just back down a bit.
Moisture is definitely there, though, Larry, as they come into Natick.
The men, by the way, checking at their time at the 15K mark. When you do the conversion, they're running at about a 2:03 something pace. So depending on what I'll say Kipchoge chooses to do, because everybody here is holding on, what he decides to do, if he's got something left in the tank, he's going to face a downhill section where he, traditionally in major events like the Tokyo Olympics, has surged. And they're still running at a very solid pace right now.
As you see some of the prominent names in that lead pack. Evans, Chebet, who has won this race, Benson Kipruto, winner as well. The American C.J. Albertson, who is also joined by fellow countryman Connor Mance. In fact, Mance just behind him there. C.J. Albertson in the middle of the picture, who had actually fallen away from the lead pack for a while, and to his credit, got himself back into that, and that's a critical thing when you're trying to stay with this lead pace. But all eyes remain on Eliud Kipchoge. And, you know, Larry, going into this race, when asked about his preparation,
sustainability, and it features the world's first retractable lens. techno has created something amazing.
There's the highlights that you see for her. And there was such a stretch in between where she had not been able to really train as well as she would have liked. And she got back on track, particularly in Valencia. Was not successful with a good result in Mexico City, kind of got her legs under her. And then after a down period for years, look at that time. Valencia, very, very fast performances on that course ball.
Well, and she beats Letacenzet Gade in that race, the world record on the track 2 times over, and the biggest surprise. In fact, Bariso ran the first half of that marathon 90 seconds faster than her PB in the half marathon, going on to set that new personal best. And her coach says he thinks she's in 2:12 shape.
Oh my goodness.
So she leads this women's race right now as the racing continues here on their way to Boston. So the lead pack of women dwindling here over the last few kilometers. Single file now with Amane Bariso of Kenya, the 31-year-old. Third fastest all-time in the marathon event. Was here in Boston back in 2016, but only finished 12th. Improvement to her performance here.
Was chosen to do for the last 3,000 meters. And her times have dropped down to about 4 minutes and 45 seconds for each of those 1,500 meters. And that's what is stringing the field out here. And it might be the wind conditions as well. So that's why they're all running single file to run into less resistance. Depending on wind speed, if you get hit with the air density here, it could affect your time by 1 second for every 400 meters based on studies. So that's why you tuck in behind other athletes to just let them push the air aside. So Bariso's doing more work than everybody else. Notice what just happened there. Bariso, if you're her, she moved to her left a little bit, and second, third place moved right over there with her. So they are facing a little bit of a breeze, and they're just letting her do the extra work.
So Bariso leads the reigning world champion Gebre Selassie. Yeshina, the runner-up from a year ago. Celestine Chepchirchir, the 27-year-old Kenyan, making her Abbott World Marathon Major debut there in 4th position. And then right behind her, Helen Obiri, again, the late ad. The only woman to win a world championship indoors and outdoors on the track and world cross country. Now giving these marathons a go and in this lead pack. But you can see now that what started as a very large group of elite women in the lead pack beginning to disperse themselves just a bit with a couple of little mini chase packs now in the rear view of the camera position here. Women now moving into Natick as they work their way through these smaller communities into the big city of Boston and the finish line. And back with the elite women. 49 minutes elapsed on the clock here.
You know, Paul, most of the men who are Ethiopian and the women like Bariso live in Addis Ababa, where they get great coaching, and they also can just travel by car a few miles or maybe 10,000 meters outside of Addis, and they start hitting mountains that they can train on, and the coaches push them. And of course, the altitude there is so high already in Addis, and they just go up another, 500 to 800 meters of elevation where the air is really thin.
Coming into the aid station there, just fresh off the Scream Tunnel at Wellesley, which is the a big prominent feature of this iconic race course in Boston with a lot of traffic here. Everyone just trying to find their right bottle at their right table. Those bottles provide critical energy throughout the course.
They do, and they're all marked. They sometimes have flags on them. The guys know where to reach for their own bottle, and everybody respects that fact. They are approaching halfway point here. The pace right now on the men's side is 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 30 seconds. You're looking at the second pack, led by American Scott Fauble. He's a 2-hour place. And on the left of your screen are the ladies with the signs of Wellesley College. 2,400 women are at Wellesley. They just voted this past year to go co-ed finally.
Well, Scott Fauble has been the top American. Here in Boston, leading this chase pack along with Connell Mitkow. McDonald, the American, also in this group. See John Career of Kenya, the 26-year-old, running just maybe a half stride behind Eliud Kipchoge, the younger brother of the 2012 Boston Marathon champion, Wesley Career. Halfway home for the 2023 Boston Marathon.
Very unofficial. 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 16 seconds. That's the exact pace we talked about a little while ago. 2:04:30 was what we talked about. And Albertson, who I talked to, said, I'm fit, but he's running, the race of his life right now. And so is Connor Mance, the two Americans hanging in very well. Mance very tough in the late stages of a race.
And Eliud Kipchoge now offering any of these other 10 members the afforded opportunity to take the race. He doesn't want to lead right now.
Right, that's right. And I wouldn't be surprised if the other guys who are not in his camp say no thanks. This is the competitive nature at this level of this. And so they're going to let him push the breeze aside. And you'll notice he's always got 2 or 3 people running behind him. Again, I don't think it's serious, this win. The woman with the white slicker on over there, you don't see the breeze moving that slicker back and forth. Same with these people on the right-hand side of your TV screen. But he would like somebody else to do the work.
Well, his teammate for the NN squad, Augustine Choge, who was up with the leaders early on, has fallen well back of the field, so he doesn't have the benefit that perhaps Evans, Chibet, and Benson Kipruto could be utilizing here in the back half of this race. They are training teammates, and who knows whether conversations were had at some point, maybe one of them deciding to help the other.
The athletes on the screen right now are going to come very shortly up to about a 70-meter drop. This, to me, is the sharpest drop on the course from a wheelchair standpoint. They just fly down that hill. It's scary in case something goes wrong with the wheelchair athletes. But here, we'll see if the pack gets strung out a bit. I think Kipchoge is keeping something in the tank for later on, and the Newton Hills could break this race open.
Well, Kipchoge did that twice in the 2 Olympic races that he won in Rio and then in Sapporo back in 2021. He put 70 seconds on the field in the final 7K in Rio. He did 80 seconds of advantage in the final 12K of Tokyo. Meantime, on the women's side, Saltpeter has now moved back with this lead group, raining very hard. As you can see, the splatters now of the raindrops for the women as they come through one of their aid stations. Salpeter, the standout from Israel, the New York City runner-up from last fall, finished third at the World Championships to get the bronze medal in Oregon. Making her Boston debut and now has the lead over the world champion that finished 2 spots ahead of her. Deborah Selassie is running right behind her there in second. And just getting past Kenmore Square into the heart of Boston by Fenway Park. This is Susanna Scaroni, the American, in full control, just as we saw with Marcel Hug. There really has been little doubt as to the winner here in both the men's and women's wheelchair. Scaroni likely not on her way to a course record performance here, but another strong victory that she's put a number of, again, cannot understate the fact that this woman in training in the fall of 2021 was struck from behind by an automobile, recovered from that, and since then has been nearly unbeatable.
She has graduated already as a dietitian. That is what her degree is in, from the University of Illinois, and has benefited from their wonderful wheelchair program that not as full a complement of wheelchair athletes, but nonetheless, that's a step in that direction. These athletes who compete for the University of Illinois have been stars for America in the Paralympic Games. And they've benefited also by coming here to Boston, and they have become elite athletes. So hats off to Marty Morse, who started that program years ago, and Adam Blink. Athletes, but nonetheless, that's a step in that direction. And they've benefited also by coming here to Boston, and they have become elite athletes. So hats off to Marty Morse, who started that program years ago, and Adam Blink, who is now the head coach.
And Scaroni making one of these last little climbs as she tries to...
About, Paul, 800 meters left in this race from where they are right now.
And trying to check off on that bucket list her first ever Boston Marathon win, as the crowd will welcome her here to Hereford in a moment, and she will make that right turn and a slight climb, and then on to Boylston Street.
Last year she competed in Boston and ran 1 hour and 46 minutes. So she's well under that, despite the somewhat rainy conditions here. It just makes the hand ring that you're hitting. What they do is, on their glove, they wear something called Glistex, and it allows them to hold onto the ring much better. It gives them a much firmer grip as she is about to turn left here and head down Boylston Street to a thunderous ovation here in Boston. Notice they don't even hit that ring to turn them. She just has really excelled at picking the chair up a bit and jerking it left or right.
Well, looking forward to hearing from her with our Allie Feller here in a moment to hear what happened with those wheels. I mean, the wheels almost came off her race chair. She had to stop, make an adjustment. She was her own pit crew, got herself back up. She had an advantage then. Was able to hold on to the lead and has just extended it over the course of the final few kilometers. Last report, she had a 5-minute advantage on De Rosario, the Paralympic marathon champion from Australia. And now, maybe for the first time, a little bit of a smile on her face as she will try to take in this amazing moment as she will win her first Boston Marathon.
One thing she has done for the last year and a half is work on her speed to get faster and faster, and that translates the longer you go competitively. If you're a great 800-meter runner, you have the chance to be a great 1,500-meter runner. It works that way, and this is the result of everything she's tried to achieve. And look at the success. To do better than she did last year in Boston is really an achievement here. This is a good example. We referenced 2018 and how terrible those conditions were. In a wheelchair, this time that she achieved now is 35 minutes faster than what she did in those terrible conditions that occurred 5 years ago.
So we'll hear from the winner, Susanna Scaroni, here in a moment. Meantime, our two elite fields still left out on the course, the women and the men. Actually now similar size of lead groups, Larry, as both the men and women have begun to dwindle down the top athletes here to a group about 10 or 11.
Just on her break.
I'm surprised at how large both groups are. A very solid pace for the men that is being set by the world record holder and #1 in the world 6 times. We're talking about Eliud Kipchoge in the red shorts if you just joined us here. But he set the pace. He's the man. Everybody defers to him. That's what's going on right here now.
Well, we've had waves of rain come through the Boston area here, which has put some moisture out on the course. And wave 3 now preparing for the firing of their starter's gun for the next group of runners to get out of Hopkinton and work their way. I mean, this is a full day of racing from Hopkinton into Boston. And as we said, earlier on in the broadcast, Larry, one of the significance of this field is the fact that you have to earn your right to be here.
You absolutely do. And this is something that, growing up in Boston, there's many people who have qualified that I knew, and the families get behind it. It's the sacrifice of the kids. They have to get out the door. They have to run a race to qualify within the past year. It could be the wife that does it, where the husband's supportive. And of course, this comes up to this day. People sit at home and they make big signs for mommy, that type of thing. It is such a bonding thing for the family and a celebratory thing. And frequently there are parties afterwards where neighbors come over or bring a cake or turn out to cheer you on at different points too. This is an amazing event.
And that wave 3 now underway. Many of them running for themselves in their own personal achievement of crossing the finish line on Boylston Street. Many others are doing it on behalf of charities, a host of charities, the beneficiaries of fundraising throughout the year, with runners trying to raise funds to compete here. And this will be the year that marks $500 million raised through charity programs at the Boston Marathon.
Paul, that's a good point. I intended to bring that up anyway, and I'm glad you did. After this event, they will have achieved $500 million, and there's a host of charities in the Boston area that benefit. They make application, the application is considered, and then they share in the money raised. It started in 1989 and has grown to that extent.
As we get back to Boylston Street, Madison de Rosario, who's into the final stretches, as already at the finish line, the winner of the women's wheelchair race, Susanna Scaroni, who's with Ali Feller.
Susanna, after 2 runner up titles here in Boston. Today you take the big one, Boston Marathon champion. When you crossed that finish line, I thought I saw a little emotion in your face. Tell us what's going on right now.
Yeah, it was pretty emotional. You know, every single time I've done this course, there's been different conditions. Everyone has been just as difficult as the one before it. And to just know, you know, I always give everything I have, and I know everyone else is also, and so it's extra special. Today to hear the crowds on Boylston, there's the most noise I've ever heard crossing this line. And it normally feels like it takes 10 years to get down Boylston, and today I just felt like I was lifted by the crowd, and it's awesome to be here. I've been so loved and supported by all of the BAA and my coach and my family and friends, so very special to be here today.
Okay, so out on that course somewhere in Natick, we saw you have to stop and fix your wheel. What was going on there?
Yeah, so this course is pretty bumpy, especially, you know, well, actually all of it. And my right wheel came loose, and so I have an Allen key with me, and so I just pulled over, tightened it as quickly as I could, and got back, and just hoped, you know, I could maybe maintain a gap. But that is what happened. I'm so happy it didn't get loose again.
Yeah, you held that lead, no problem. Susanna, congratulations, Boston Marathon champion.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susanna Scaroni. So she picks up her first Boston win, and now completing his 22nd and final trip down Boylston Street, the 10-time champion, Ernst van Dyke.
You know, again, I mentioned early on, I decided to get that in, just what an achievement it has been for his success over the years. He's also an accomplished swimmer as well. He has just had an amazing career. He now helps make wheelchairs for athletes. He is just, I mean, to last till you're 50, to have that drive to train, just says so much. And we're so glad that he's back here and that we can give him a final salute for all the inspiration that he has provided. He had such a finish going back 6 years ago with Marcel Hug for the They're still spread out behind a bit. I don't think wind is a factor here. Connor Mance, typical gutsy runner that he is, trying to hold on.